Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I am yet again talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I'm returning to a topic that I talked about during the beta of the game, and that would be the Xbox One X version and its bizarre performance profile when compared to the PlayStation 4 Pro. So traditionally on Xbox One X, going back to Infinite Warfare where they would actually release enhanced patches, Xbox One X would be the best way to play these games on console from a technical perspective. It would have the best frame rate and also the best resolution. So for me, I kept playing the games on Xbox One X because it just made the most sense. I wanted to have the game looking really nice and also being very responsive. And I wanted to do the same thing naturally with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. However, when I played the beta of the game, I noticed that there was some very prominent screen tearing. A lot of people didn't seem to notice it, but I don't know how you couldn't notice it during the beta. It was very obvious. But I thought, okay, there's a slight risk here that this will carry over into the true game, because I wouldn't be expecting to see screen tearing to this degree so close to the game's launch. And indeed, it has unfortunately made it into the game's launch, and even now almost a month after release. And I suppose I'm in a little bit of a unique position here, because I did decide to get the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X version. So when I look at the PS4 Pro version, that is a class act of optimization there. The frame rate is super solid. There is no screen tearing whatsoever. And the resolution is indeed a bit lower than that of the Xbox One X, but quite frankly, that's just the developers making sure that it can run at that target frame rate at all times. They have done a splendid job there, and that is why I've been playing on the PS4 Pro most of the time. But I jumped over to my Xbox One X version because I wanted to see, have they fixed it, have they addressed those frame rate issues, and unfortunately for the most part they haven't. It's not as bad as it was in a beta, but it's still there, and it depends on the map you're playing on. So I've noticed that some maps, I want to say like Azir Cave, are almost completely free of screen tearing on account of the fact that the frame rate is very constant. If the frame rate doesn't go below 60, there's no reason you would see adaptive VSync kick in, so no screen tearing. But on something like Piccadilly, for whatever reason, it seems quite taxing. It's not as easy to notice, I will admit, in a YouTube video, so you may not be able to see it as well as I'm seeing it on the actual screen, but there is definite screen tearing on Piccadilly, and there's also just a noticeably lower frame rate than the PS4 Pro equivalent, even though the game does look sharper. And I suppose those are two different degrees, but you see it across the board. Like Hackney Yard, you see it sometimes, but not all the time. It's a bit of a mix, but I'm a little bit disappointed in this, to be honest, because the Microsoft version, the Xbox One X version from Infinite Warfare up until Black Ops 4 was the definitive console edition in terms of technical prowess for Call of Duty, right? It had the best frame rate and also the best resolution. Well, I will say that, to be honest, the frame rates were on par between the enhanced consoles, but the resolution was definitely higher on the Xbox One X versions. But here, yes, the resolution is better, and that's great, but it's almost as if they've over-calibrated it, because the frame rate in return takes a hit. And I think this is one of those franchises, one of these series, where the gameplay is so fast-paced and frenetic, and you need to have the maximum response times and also the maximum visibility, that screen tearing and frame rate loss is not really acceptable. And the reason I've decided to make a video about this topic is, quite frankly, so few people are talking about it. And I totally understand why. There are multiple balance issues with the game, which, I will be honest, need to be addressed first. I think the map spawning needs some attention. Skill-based matchmaking, or just the matchmaking in general, needs some tweaks. Also, some of the weapons still need some tweaks, and I would definitely say probably do that first. But I really hope they don't forget about the poor old Xbox One X, because look, the Xbox One X is objectively the most capable console available to us, right? It's got the most VRAM, the heftiest GPU, and yet I noticed that sometimes developers look at it and look at the relatively low install base, because, I mean, that is just a reality of the situation, right? The Xbox platform is less popular on PlayStation, and the Xbox One X is a niche version of the Xbox, so it makes sense, right, that we would get the least attention, unfortunately. But nevertheless, it's frustrating, because the reason you buy an enhanced console is because you care about graphics. If you didn't care about graphics and frame rate, why wouldn't you just get a base console, right? So, you know, there's this inherent expectation that you would want optimization to be a priority for these consoles. And I will say that Infinity Ward did a fantastic job on optimizing the PlayStation 4 Pro, but the Xbox One X looks to have been an afterthought, and I think that's extremely evident when you look at the fact that for the first few weeks of the game, it was constantly hard crashing people's consoles. I mean, you can't tell me that a version that does that got the attention it needed in terms of optimization. I very much doubt so. I think they've managed to somewhat address the crashing. I'm getting less of it, but the optimization seems to be something that I'm concerned will never be looked at, or will be looked at way later down the line, which is unfortunate because this new engine is obviously very capable, it's very satisfying, and I just feel like when I go to the Xbox One X, I'm watching lost potential in action. It's such a good console when developers look at it and realise what they can get out of it. Red Dead Redemption 2 is such a great example of that. By any metric, it was the best console version from a technical perspective, but sometimes you get developers who look at the install base and just say, hey, Xbox One X, crank the resolution up, don't bother testing it, because they'll just be happy with a close to 4K resolution, and I don't think that's the way to do it. And it's unfortunate again, because this is the version I want to play, but it's not. I'm playing the PS4 Pro for the superior performance. Many of you will say just go on the PC. Straight up, my PC is being a bit weird right now. I can use it, but the fans are crazy loud, so like I don't really want to use it at the moment. So I'm sort of looking at my consoles for the best experience these days, and I wanted it to be the Xbox One X version. I still do. Honestly, guys, it's like a ritual with every patch they release, including the one that just came out, which is why I'm making this video. I go on, I make a private match, I play on Piccadilly, and I check, have they fixed it yet? And each time I'm saying no, they haven't, but I will check again because I have a little bit of faith that they'll get to it eventually. But because so few of us care about this, because such a small portion of the overall player base of COD actually play it on Xbox One X, I'm a little bit skeptical that it will get addressed because there are just so many other issues that affect far more people. So if you're also like me and you're playing it on Xbox One X either occasionally or it is your platform, I would encourage you to demand the best of your console. Look guys, you bought a console that is the most powerful on the market. Are you going to accept that Infinity Ward is just going to give you this experience which is less than what it can be? I don't think you should. I think you should look to what can be done with other titles, even previous COD games, and say, look, I bought the most powerful console on the market. I deserve the best performance for a console. That's what you should be demanding. As I've said before, it's better to complain than to be complacent. Don't just accept their stuff. We deserve more, considering we actually paid for the best console, technically speaking, from a performance standpoint, but we're not getting it here for whatever reason. Although I'm going to caveat this right at the end, because when I did this in the beta, a bunch of people said this: if you have a FreeSync monitor, you won't see screen tearing. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.